We have details of these stories, including sports and entertainment, over the next 60 minutes if you stay with us here on TV3. Let's begin this afternoon, however, from here. A crunch meeting between leadership of the Ghana Union of Students and the Foreign Affairs Ministry is currently underway over the crisis in Ukraine after Russia launched an attack on the Eastern European country. The meeting is exploring possible options to get Ghanaian students in Ukraine to be evacuated amidst growing tensions there. The General Secretary of NUG's Ukraine chapter is currently in Ghana and is part of a meeting ongoing on the crisis. In a statement, NUG's urged government to prioritize students and ensure they are protected. Now, my colleague with the News Planning Desk, Dennis Wedam, he's joining me with details of a statement from NUG's. Now, Dennis, what more is NUG's asking of government?
Well, so NUG's is concerned about the safety and welfare of students in Ukraine right now, and they are calling on government to, as a matter of emergency, bring those students home, or at least move them to a place where they'll be safe. NUG's observed that in the midst of all this, some countries have prioritized the evacuation of their own citizens, including students. They've also observed that some people have actually fled the country, including the chapter executives of NUG's in Ukraine, who have come back to Ghana and have advised them that they need to work together with government to get their own students out of the country right now. For the students, they think that we've been here before or something of this sort has happened before, so they can just rely on the strategy that was used by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs at the peak of the COVID-19 to evacuate students from China back home, that they can still use the same approach to bring the students back home. So they're also saying that they're willing and ready to work with government on that score, and I guess that's the reason for which there's currently a meeting underway at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to have the students brought back home.
And does the statement in any way say what other countries are doing to students in Ukraine specifically?
Yes, so the statement recognizes that in Ukraine, other countries have prioritized the evacuation of their citizens, especially students. So that's the reason they're also concerned that it's not safe for the students to continue to be there. They think that the students should be brought back home or at least moved to the western provinces of Ukraine, where they think that it's a bit safe there until the matter is settled before they can go back.
Dennis will stay with me a while longer because in the last few hours, we know the Ghana Foreign Affairs Ministry has been reacting to the happenings in Ukraine and specifically with respect to the students who are calling for help. And Dennis, what does the tweet from the Foreign Affairs Ministry say?
So the tweet from the Foreign Affairs Ministry is basically a recognition that they know what's ongoing there and they're concerned about the over 1,000 students who are currently in Ukraine. For them, they've advised the students to stay at home where they are or move to government places or shelter places where they can take shelter there for the meantime while they engage with authorities over there, in Ukraine, to see if there could be a way forward. It's not exactly clear if there are plans to evacuate them, but for now, the ministry is advising them to take cover at places that they will be safe.
Okay, thank you. Dennis Wedam there, he's with the News Planning Department. So that's the latest situation in Ukraine, and that meeting at the Foreign Affairs Ministry is currently ongoing. We'll be getting the latest from there, also crossing over to Ukraine to speak to the NUG's Ukraine president, who has been, in connection with us over the tensions in that part of the country. But as the tensions continue to rise, the Ghanaian community, that's 1,700 plus students and 150 non-resident students, including academia, confirmed safe and accounted for as of this morning. The Ghanaian mission in Kiev and other neighboring countries are making arrangements with airlines and families of students to be ready for evacuation.
The Ghanaian community is safe, despite the early morning killings that we all woke up to. As of last night, there was a state of emergency which was declared. And because of that, I sent also messages to them. So I would say that our people are safe and have spoken, with some even this morning. Where we are now, if we have everything, we cannot evacuate because the airspace of Ukraine is currently shut. What can be done is if we identify any areas that prove to be problematic or people will be vulnerable there, to relocate them or evacuate them to a safer place. But we had all this in plan, knowing, things would develop. So already the mission and the ministry was working on the modalities to get, the students out. And we woke up to this. So It's actually what we have now. So if there will be any evacuation, it would be an evacuation to safer places. We ourselves are looking at the situation as it is now and just using maybe geographical location. If a place is so close to the Russian border, we would rather want people to move from there. It doesn't have to be whether there is noise or there is no noise there, but that is what we are doing now. I had a communication also with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, and they advise that people stay calm. Studies have been halted for today, and looking at how things would develop, they would come back. So far, the Ukrainians have given us all the help we need. It might also interest you to know even other Ghanaian missions also were interested to know what is happening to us. So I could see all hands on deck.
So you just heard there speaking to us a short time ago, Dr. Albert Kicha is the honorary consul designate of Ghana to Ukraine. Let's cross over now live to Ukraine and speak to President of NUG's Ukraine chapter, Dr. Philip Bobier Ansan. Thank you, Dr. Phil. I imagine you and the rest of the students you are in touch with are safe as we speak?
Absolutely. We are all safe as it stands now.
Okay, great. Now, let us know the situation in terms of other countries and what they are doing with the students who, of course, you are in classes with, etc., amid the crisis and the tension.
All right. So I think India embassy has been great so far. They announced, they've been on marches, they've been on top of marches, honestly. They addressed the situation as and when it came, as and when it's escalated. So they even organized flights, commercial flights really, to send Indians home, because we have a lot of Indians here in Ukraine. So there's that high demand for such approach. So the government did that for them, and then they were being evacuated, but they were paying for it, of course. But the schedule for that flight was to be today on the 26th, and then I think on the 28th. But because of the situation now, I think yesterday I was in touch. This dawn actually, I was in touch with a few of them. They were not allowed to leave as Russia started the invasion this dawn. So the flights were cancelled and all of that. So some of these students are trying to relocate to safer regions and parts of Ukraine. So that is the situation now.
And you are calling for intervention by governments, for example, if they could evacuate you and the rest of your members, over 1,000 of you. Has there been any response to the appeal since you made it beginning last night?
Absolutely, absolutely. We've had a response, just as we had from the honorary consul designate mentioned. Embassies were reaching out to help us, and as of now, we are even in contact with Switzerland, and then we are preparing a communique for them, like an update on matters so far, give the report so far as well, and then also give them possible scenarios of evacuation. Just as he said, airspace is closed now, so we have to now start looking at other options. So that is what we are trying to establish. We are also giving them the updates in case the airspace becomes open. Okay. So we are also providing such updates to them so that when it immediately becomes available, our students will be evacuated.
Just before I let you go, before I got on air, there was news that a lot of individuals have thronged banks to withdraw their monies as the tensions escalate. For example, are you and your students able to have enough supplies so that while you are keeping safe in shelters or wherever you are, you can feed yourself and sustain yourselves?
From the reports I've had so far from my correspondent across the cities, I think most of our members haven't been able to do that because we are all caught by surprise. They started at dawn. Some were sleeping. They had to be woken up by their friends and families who heard the news first. So by the time we heard these things to take these actions, we were late to that. By that time, some ATMs were not working. That is the report I've heard so far. As I communicated with some of my colleagues, they told me they couldn't withdraw funds. Some of the ATMs are not working. Others also, there are huge queues. They couldn't just wait. The Ukrainians, of course, were also trying to withdraw money, so they couldn't do it. But with the groceries and water, we encourage them to at least try to get these things so that they can keep up and see what developments we will have in the next few days.